Hey, howdy, and welcome back. It's another Workshop Wednesday. Today, our category is What's New? And we're going to talk about the latest updates that Google has released in May 2020 for Analytics, Tag Manager, and Data Studio. First, of course, if this is your first Workshop Wednesday, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer. I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. And whether you found out about us through our podcasts and talks that we give out in numerous places, incidentally, always open to podcasts. So if you want to just go to our site at measurementmarketing.io. You'll see a place to submit your podcast, and I'd be happy to jump on and help your audience. Also, maybe you came through the different platforms that we've helped out with some different information like Digital Marketer, CXL Institute, or Social Media Examiner. A pleasure to have you here. Or maybe you're already a member of measurementmarketing.io. Either way, welcome back to Workshop Wednesday. Our job here is to help you figure out how to know your numbers and what to do with your numbers to ultimately so you can grow the numbers. And we do that primarily through helping you learn tools like Analytics and Tag Manager and Data Studio and Facebook Analytics and all the other stuff that's out there. And we really do this using the measurement marketing framework. Now, we cover this each and every workshop just because A, it's quick, and two, it puts things in context. See what I did there with A and two? Okay. First, planning. You got to make sure which questions you're trying to answer, what information you need to get those answers, ultimately what actions you're going to take based on those answers. Then you build, where you actually are using tools like Tag Manager and Google Analytics, both of which had updates today that you'll be able to hopefully take advantage of. Then you do the reporting. Now, of course, we use Data Studio an immense amount for reports and dashboards, and you're going to see some updates that Data Studio had today, so that'll hopefully help out with your reporting stage. Once you've got your reports, then you begin to forecast, a very important thing that people skip. You've got to start to forecast. So start to predict your near-term future, and then you measure against your forecasts, and that will tell you where you ultimately will start to optimize so you can take action and start to ultimately grow those numbers you are so desperately trying to grow. Now, with all of these workshops, just make sure you focus on one thing. We're going to cover a lot of different stuff today, some of which will apply to you, some of which will not, because maybe you're just not using a certain tool. But we try to cover a little bit of everything for everybody. So if it's not for you, no big deal. Just hang on to that one thing, one new idea, one new concept, maybe one new feature you can play with. And then you can come back and rewatch these workshops, which is why we make them publicly available for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? What's new? Google's May 2020 updates. Now we're going to jump right in as we often do, and we're going to start with our Google Tag Manager. Now, it's not very often I get to talk about updates to Google Tag Manager. However, there was one that's a little tricky, and it's more just making sure you know where it is now. Hopefully, you haven't needed it all that often. However, let's pretend I needed to delete this container. How would I do it? I would go to admin, I would go to my container account, and I would delete it, or I would delete the container here. Well, you'll notice delete is not there anymore. So my guess is people were accidentally deleting, maybe a little too much. We've had some clients ourselves that have actually deleted stuff that we didn't want to do. So what we can do is you go to account settings. In this case, if you want to delete the entire account, you go here to the little hamburger menu, a little more settings menu here, and then you click on delete. Then it will go into a trash can, which will show up in here if I can back out. If it lets me, there we go. There's a little trash can will show up and it'll say, hey, you got 30 days to actually review it and edit undo. So again, I wouldn't just sort of willy-nilly delete stuff. However, that's how you delete an account. And very similarly, and probably more often what you'll need to do, especially if you're working with other clients and you're or practicing with different containers and things like that, you want to delete a container, you come into the container settings, go again to the same little more settings menu up here, and then you'll see delete, and that's how you get to it. So they kind of pushed it back just a little bit, and I actually really like that change because I think it kind of keeps it out of the hands of somebody who doesn't know where to go look for it. Anybody who's trying to delete now actually cannot accidentally delete something. Like you really kind of have to take a few steps to delete it, which of course means, if you're an implementer, just make sure you know what you're doing as you go back there. But I think that was a really, really good change. Now, as always, we always recommend every single time we do updates to come back here, go into the templates gallery, because if you're not looking at these, every day there's like new stuff back here, it seems like. So there's always different tags that are now available in the templates gallery. It's a huge, huge benefit to Google Tag Manager. Helps the tool to evolve itself. And again, I scroll through these quickly because you should just be doing this on your own. There's so many things that are back here that pop out, not just in terms of the tag templates, but also the variables templates that are available. So new things are being released all the time back here. Just make sure at least on a monthly basis, you're coming back to see what's new in this, because there probably is going to be something. All right, so that's it for Tag Manager. Next up, Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is actually, I'm going to segue this a little bit. I'm going to start with the app and web Google Analytics because that is really the one that's getting the love from Google Analytics. Now, I mean Google Analytics, I mean the team at Google. This is the platform. This is where they're pushing all the resources. This is the new Google Analytics. This is the one that's going to replace the old Google Analytics, one that you and I both knew and love. This is going to replace all. It's going to be years away until it does that. This is still early days. Reports are changing back here. It's very fluid. It's kind of like molten lava sometimes with all the stuff they're doing back here, but it's something you need to be aware of. You don't have to be using this, I don't think. I think it's too early for most people to start using this as their platform of choice, but you should at least have some sort of setup back here like we do. We're not using this to gain answers necessarily, but we're back here to start to understand it because it just operates in a completely different way. All of that said, and by the way, we do have courses for that if you need it at measurearcane.io. Those of you who are Win Monthly Pass members or Academy members, just go check out Win Google Analytics 2.0 app and web properties, and you'll see how to set that up. Now, these changes, the things that came out this month that was sort of helping with this. One is we started seeing that games reporting. We actually reported on this last month, and we just didn't have access to it, but now we do. So we've got the games reporting. Again, that's super cool idea of how they're doing this cross-device thing. Like, I'm really, it's like, watch this spot. Like, there's some cool stuff that's coming down the track in this. So we got access to that, which was great. But really, the two big changes I think that came out specifically when it came out to Google Analytics itself were the predefined searches. So they're trying to make this a little easier for people to go through and figure out. So you say, oh, what platforms use the most? You can click here, and it takes you into the insights section, which is this little magic wizard here, these little insight sections. Now, I am not personally a huge believer in this stuff yet. I have yet to see this produce anything incredibly fruitful outside of how we normally teach stuff. We teach stuff like you shouldn't have to analyze reports. If you have to analyze reports, your reports are way too complicated and you need to simplify them because reports should be like your car dashboard, like that sort of simple. You see your speedometer, you know if you need to hit the brake or hit the gas. Like that's all you need to know. That's how as complicated as a dashboard or your reports should be. However, what they're trying to do here is integrate a little of AI and kind of build this with AI in mind. Now, two things on this. One is anything with AI requires an immense amount of data, number one, to give any sort of useful suggestions. So you have to have a ton of traffic for some of this. But they're trying to also make it something that can answer questions without you having to dig into reports. And I do like that idea. I don't know if it's going to be super useful yet, but I wanted to show it to you. So for example, I can say, what my conversions last month and just type this in. And then if I give it a second, it gives me this instant answer and says, okay, well, here's my conversions for last month. It automatically does the date range. Here's the total conversions. Now, again, what do we mean by conversions? Not very useful. So some of this is leads last month. We have an event called a lead. So now it says, okay, well, I'm going to go through, find the event name. I didn't tell it was an event. It just knows this. So it's an event name of a lead, and it's 287 in this past month. So it can do things like this. Now, that I think is useful. But if I said, let's say leads from Facebook last month, can it do that? So there we go. Event count of lead, 287. Okay, well, that's not really what I want. I want leads sourced from Facebook. So there's a little bit of stuff that, I think eventually they're heading in the right direction. It's just kind of the toddler stage, right? We're all sort of learning how this thing works. But I think it's cool, and I think it's interesting how they're doing it. And this was one of the updates. Like, this is something they're working on. And again, this is not like, great, let's stop using the old analytics and let's start using this new one. You do both. You're not going to let go of your old analytics for many, many, many years, I think. I'm pretty convinced of that at this point. But this is something to pay attention to and know that it's back here. The other thing was those of you who are using this on a daily basis know that audiences were just expanded. Meaning there was a cap of, I believe it was 50 initially, and now it's up to 100 different audiences you can create. So they are seeing how people are using this tool, and they're expanding it in ways to make it easier to use, which is another reason for you to get back here and play around with stuff too, because Google's looking at this. Again, they know that no one's, stopping the old analytics and starting this one and 100% all in on this one, but they definitely, expect people to start using it, and they want to see how they can develop the product as people like you and I do. So again, I would recommend that you at least set this up parallel. It is nowhere near cooked enough, easy enough to use, or I think even useful enough at this point to give incredibly cool answers that you cannot otherwise get through this analytics, which is the one that you and I both know, right? Our regular everyday Google Analytics. Now, what was different about this one actually will segment me into Data Studio. So if you go to customization now and you go to dashboards or custom reports, I'm just going to go to custom reports, but you're going to see the same thing at dashboards. This is something, by the way, I've always thought they were eventually going to deprecate, and I think they're getting closer to doing it. But here it says, instead of like it's visualized audiences, acquisitions, behaviors. It used to just say like, hey, make sure you're trying Data Studio. Well, now even custom reports have this messaging up here. And when I first saw this, I just sort of skipped it because I'm used to see them saying, hey, you should try Data Studio. But it's different. So what they've done is they've automatically integrated stuff, which I do think is kind of cool. I don't personally use this because I'm not a huge fan of templates, but I wanted to show it to you. So you go into your Google Analytics. This is sitting there for you right now. Go into your analytics. You can click on audiences as an example. It will pull up the audiences report for Google Data Studio, automatically integrate it with your Google Analytics information, and boom, now you got your audiences report. I think that is pretty cool. I like that they did that. Again, I'm not a huge fan of templates necessarily because this report was built to answer somebody else's questions, not my own. But you got to start somewhere. And I think it's pretty interesting what they did and said, hey, okay, here's the different audiences. And we've kind of got, it's a lot better than the regular reports in Google Analytics. So if you've been using those, you want to use something a little more interesting, I think it'd be cool to do. And of course, you can come in here and change things and edit. You just click to edit and share. And then you can take it over and create it, maybe add in source medium or something else if you wanted to. But I thought it was pretty cool what they did. And the fact that they're really tying these two tools together to help people understand the power, right? For us, the way that we teach it at measurementmarketing.io, Tag Manager is all about collecting the right behaviors, collecting the information that we need. Analytics is all where you store it. And then ultimately Data Studio is where you display it. And that's where the reporting side comes in. So those three tools work incredibly well together. If you are not, by the way, using those three tools, 100% go all in on those three tools. It will change your life when it comes to marketing and for you in terms of visibility to see what's possible. And more importantly, what actions you should take next, because using these three platforms together that can really help you understand what do you do now, what actions do you take next, and to help you simplify things. So especially if you've been overwhelmed by data and reports and frustrated by all that big data stuff before, it's a lot easier when you use these three things together, as long as you've got the framework to do it. Okay, now let's move into Google Data Studio. So a few things on Data Studio. We're going to start with a report gallery. They actually have created these marketing templates now. You can just Google it, Google Data Studio marketing templates, or just go to datastudio.google.com/gallery, and it'll take you to the report gallery where you now see marketing templates. So they have added a bunch of different templates in here. Again, I am personally not a huge fan of templates in terms of actually using a template to get answers, because each of these reports was developed for somebody else's answers, somebody else's questions. And so it's rare that I'm going to have the same question somebody else will. It's such a generic kind of 30,000 foot viewpoint. That's what these are. I like them. They're just generic. And I like very specific answers, so I know what specific actions to take with my company. It's how we build our reports. But that said, these are cool reports to be able to look at and say, okay, how did they do this? What information did they pull in? I didn't know they even could, use that as a report. So you can come in and you can pull in any of these reports. All you have to do is just click on them. And then when you pull them in, it will connect them into your account because it's got this little default data drop-down wizard here. So you've got, what's nice about this is I can click on use template, it brings it in, or I can come into here, I can authorize it, and then bring in my Google Ads data. Unfortunately, we don't use Google Ads, at least at this particular point of this recording. When this workshop is being used, we don't have a lot of Google Ads data to report, or I would hook it in. But this is how that works. So it's kind of nice that you can use this report without technically sort of creating it, I guess, in a way. So it's got this little drop down here, and you can flip it in and then see what the information is. That's what a marketing template was for. That was the big change of how they did that. So again, in the reporting gallery, you've got that. And of course, you'll see a bunch of other things too. There's community visualizations. There's community things that are back here. So other people sharing their reports. The way that I use this is really for inspiration. More than anything else, it's inspiration. So because you can kind of see like, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that or this or the other thing. Okay, next up, let's talk what's possible. So I'm going to jump into our edit view of a little example workshop. So a couple things that have changed back here. One is if you scroll around here, you will now see a new chart called Google Maps. So Google Maps, and I'm going to bring it down here. Eventually, I'm just going to, you know what I should do? I'm going to stop this. Let's just swip into page 2. I say, normally I'm like, hey, let's create a new page. And I never actually do that, but we're going to create a new page today. So Google Maps, click in there. And I can actually enter in Google Maps data. It can should pull it in from your Google Analytics. And so you've got the ability to use Google Maps. So pretty cool information. They have one example in their dev docs and the developer docs. And again, you can kind of search for that or just play around with this. But basically, you can do a couple of different metrics. There's only 2 that you can use. So it's limited, but it makes sense because it's a map, right? So it's pulling in geographic data from different places. If you wanted to, you could see like list of buyers. If you had names and addresses, street addresses of people, you could see that sort of stuff. So you can visualize that. But what's neat about this one particular, because at first I was like, man, why would you even want to use this? Well, one thing they had was bubble size and bubble color. So bubble size might be the number of visits from a particular area. Bubble color might be revenue from a particular area, or vice versa, right? So you can kind of see like, oh, revenue versus number of people that are visiting from different areas. So kind of some interesting things that you can do with this. So again, I don't know that I'm really going to ask that question. However, again, my particular business model just doesn't require an answer to that question yet. Yours might. And Google Maps is a really kind of a neat report to be able to integrate with. So I think it did a really nice job and kind of seeing where things are. So pretty interesting. Okay, so that was one thing. Next thing, and I'm going to bring in something else here. So if I bring in, let me just try this. I have yet to try this. So I bring in acquisition campaign. All I did was click over here in our available fields and bring it over. When I do that, what you will notice happens, and I'm going to shrink some of these down so you can see. I'm going to shrink our little maps here. You will see I have a table that was just created. So I've got my little table here with acquisition campaign. How did that happen? I didn't go to add to chart and add a table. I literally just dragged and dropped it. And that is kind of the new thing that they've created here. So if I go down to metrics, I'm going to pull in a metric, say average quantity. I just drag and drop. It brings in a scorecard. That is the average quantity. So what's cool about this is before, and again, this is just a very tiny shortcut time saver thing, but before you used to have to go up here, insert scorecard or copy and paste another scorecard and then change a metric. Well, now you can go find your metric, type in users in this case, which is one we use a lot. So we'll pull in users. There's our user count. And now I can go through and create a segment and do funnel visualization with it or figure out conversion rates or whatever else I want to do. So it's a faster way to do this. So different fields, you can be drag and drop dimensions and metrics both, and they will default to a particular one. Mostly it's going to be tables or scorecards. I think you'll end up using most of the time. Again, if you wanted to, you can come back and you want to flip it out to something else, flip it out to something else. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to create a new pie chart, but you can come in here and change it. So you can go to style, click on it, go to up here at the table. So we want, that's what I'm looking for. And then you can flip it into, whatever other chart style you wanted. So you could do that. Anything that is a date dimension, by the way, I think is a time series is how they work. And I don't have a whole lot of stuff listed here, but you get the idea. So in fact, I'm going to try date because I just haven't seen that. So let's just see it work. Pull in date. There you go. See that has a little time series icon. It's going to be a time series. So there's a time series by date. And then again, you would just switch out whatever the metric is, whatever else you need. So just kind of a cool thing to play around with, a little shortcut that is now possible. Again, thanks to the team at Google Data Studio. And again, 100%, I say this every month. I'm going to keep saying this, I think, for every month for a long, long time. Though Google Analytics team is catching up. But Google Data Studio still has the most updates for May. So in the last 30 days. So that was a few different things that were available. And to cover the last thing is really more technical with Data Studio. So I'm just going to mention it. And it really was, they've opened up a developer API. There's a developer preview now for the Data Studio API. I'm not personally going to be messing with that. However, I know that there are other developers that are out there, software as a service stuff, or other third-party companies that are now able to get into Data Studio and access Data Studio and use it in ways that helps make their tools better, and ultimately I think will help make Data Studio better. So that part where they open up the API, again, it's kind of technical, but basically just means there is a way now for third-party platforms and other software to work with Data Studio. And because of that, because they're heading in that direction, it makes me, again, just such a believer in this platform that Data Studio is going to out-evolve the competition because they've got community visualization. So you can have third-party even charts. If I don't find a chart that I like that Data Studio provides, I have the community charts, right? So we have all of these that are here. That came out many moons ago when they did that. And they've continued to open up community, developer, not just in charts, but in terms of connectors and different connectors that are now available. So now you have hundreds of connectors that you can pull into. Now they've got this API where it's this marching forward of let's make this platform as open as possible and let as many people play with it as possible to help evolve the platform for the marketplace. So again, just why I'm doubling down on Data Studio seemingly every month is because this platform continues to evolve and continues to grow. And these updates also prove that point. So they continue to evolve stuff. All right. So with that, I think we can officially bring this one to a close. What was your one thing? Was it the fact of, maybe if you haven't yet started playing with Google Apps and Web, the Google Analytics app and web, like, okay, maybe get back there. We've seen it again. It is completely different analytics program. It is a night and day difference. It is not at all like the regular analytics, which is why you're not going to stop using the old analytics. You're going to keep using that as you normally would and just kind of have this thing as a hobby in the background for now. But maybe now's the time if you haven't yet played with that. Data Studio, just seeing some of the shortcuts that are available. Maybe the Google Maps thing solves a problem for you. Now that you can get down to, where you can, do street level addresses and stuff, like maybe that's useful for you for some reason, or for a report that you've been trying to create, and that solves a problem for you. Maybe just the shortcuts with the different reports is possible. Maybe you're a developer and you're out there using the API, so you have access to that. So also something pretty cool. Or maybe just the Google Analytics integration. Maybe you're just using that, keeping it at the level where you're already using the regular analytics, and there's that now they have the integration. Of course, if you've been trying to delete a container and have not been able to find where that is, maybe that's where, now that you know how to delete a container in Google Tag Manager, because they've moved things, containers and accounts, how do you delete them? You got to really know what you're looking for now in order to delete, which I think is a good thing because it keeps down accidental deletions, which again, we've personally had clients ask us that, where they're like, oh man, we accidentally deleted our container. And now it's going to be a lot harder to do that because you really have to want to delete it in order to find it, which I love. I think that's a great, great thing. All right. So with that, if you, we've already mentioned some of these courses, but if you are interested in learning more, you're not yet a member, go to measure.tip/courses. You can see we've got different courses on analytics, Tag Manager, Data Studio, measurement strategy in general, lots of different areas for you to focus on. They are called WIN courses because WIN stands for what I need. We are not big fans of overwhelm. We are not big fans of here's a million videos that cover every possible bell and whistle, because let's face it, you and I both know you probably don't need all the bells and whistles. You just need what you need to get moving and get growing. And that's kind of what I need is all about, these WIN courses. So take a look at that. Hopefully they can help you out. Next week's topic is getting started. We rotate topics each and every week. So this week was a what's new. Last week was a strategy session. Next week, it's getting started. And we're going to focus on Tag Manager. So if you've just getting started with Tag Manager, if you want to learn a little bit more about Google Tag Manager, make sure you tune in for next week using Tag Manager for pixels and scripts, because we're going to help you get started with Tag Manager, which reminds me, if you have not yet subscribed to YouTube, our YouTube channel, please take a moment to do that. What do the kids say? Ring the bell, smash that button. Yes, please do that. Whatever it takes to make sure that you get our videos actually emailed out to you. So when you subscribe, it makes it easier, number one, to find our channel. And number two, of course, I believe YouTube should be emailing you when we post the new videos every Workshop Wednesday. You'll get an email that has that for you as well. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure that you get access to that. But if you don't, that's still okay, because you can become a Toolbox member where you get Workshop Wednesday. We have the Workshop Wednesdays in the members area. Many of you are watching Workshop Wednesday now right there in the members area. So it's already there for you. We make sure it's there each and every week. You also have access to all of these tools, plus I think, give or take, conservatively, another 40 or so other tools that we have back there. And they are all the price of free. So it doesn't cost anything at all to become a Toolbox member. You get access to all of this stuff. So if you're a little more advanced with Tag Manager, you've got the GGM cookbook. If you are just getting started using Google Analytics for ACE goals, or the dashboard toolkit we have back there. There's the marketing behavior toolkit. There's the traffic tracking toolkit. There's all sorts of stuff back there to help you get up and running and get started, whether you're a beginner or whether you have got some skill sets and you want to improve those skills. We are back there for you at the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. If you're interested in activating your free membership, just go to measure.tip/ww. It'll take you right to the page where you can sign up, activate your membership, and it'll automatically send you out the login details, and then you'll have access to Workshop Wednesday and the Toolbox, where you get access to all of those tools, and you get to enjoy that with our compliments. All right. With that, this one officially comes to a close. Thanks again for joining Workshop Wednesday. This has been What's New, Google's May 2020 updates. Appreciate you watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.